back, where you think we could get our guys, and what guys you think we can get later on. So for me, cornerback, we need 2 in this draft, not 1. We definitely need 2 in this draft. And I think one of those has to be in the first 3 rounds, whether we trade up back into round 1, whether we pick at 43, whether we trade back into round 3, or we take one at 102. We have to get a cornerback in the first 3 rounds. And that's something that the 49ers haven't done often, but this year it's got to change. And when you look at what the 49ers need, I think they really need a gritty cornerback, a guy who's very physical, a guy who likes to get in there, mess plays up, get in other players' heads. I love those guys a lot, and I definitely think that's what the 49ers are looking for, especially after losing Ahkello Witherspoon, who I believe is actually going to be a bigger loss than it sounds. I think he's going to do really well in Seattle. We'll have to see about that. Definitely a hot take. But 2 guys you can talk about for a day 2 pick, maybe day 1, Ifeatu Melifonwu out of Syracuse and Kelvin Joseph out of Kentucky. Those are 2 gritty cornerbacks if you want to talk. And I'm primarily focusing on the outside because I think nickel, yeah, you do need some depth at nickel as well. But I think you look at the outside because if Jason Verrett's gone, that's going to be a hard position to fill. Meanwhile, if you have Kalen Williams gone, I think you can slide a guy like Tarvarius Moore into the slot or something like that. You have decent depth for that. But I think you look at the outside, that's definitely a lot worse. So 2 guys, Ifeatu Melifonwu, Kelvin Joseph, those are 2 of my favorite guys, round 2. Eric Stokes is another guy, too, I forgot to bring up. Tyson Campbell, I know he's been climbing up boards. I wonder if Eric Stokes is climbing up boards as well because there are more people watching Tyson Campbell film late now. So I wonder if Eric Stokes, this guy ran a very fast 40 time. That could be a very good option. Greg Newsome, Caleb Farley, 2 great options. I personally don't think they'll make it to us, but if they're there, I think we have to take those guys. Now, if you want a bit of a later round guy, there's 2 guys I really like. First guy I've been high on this entire draft process, Israel Mukuamu, the cornerback out of not Syracuse, South Carolina. He's paired up next to JC Horn. I don't get why a lot of scouts are very low on him. I love this kid. Very physical. You're watching this JC Horn tape. Let's watch JC Horn. Oh, crap. Who's this guy on the other side? That's Israel Mukuamu. This guy's a gritty guy. He can also play safety as well. Some teams have him there. That could be why his stock is drafting. So lots of versatility. And you'll see a theme with versatility in a lot of my guys. The last guy I'll talk about before I give you guys the stage, Benjamin St. Juste out of Minnesota. This guy did pretty well at the Senior Bowl. A very gritty cornerback. Jesse, you have a smile on your face. I have a feeling you were going to talk about him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I had him as like a 4th round type guy.
Yeah, definitely probably a day 3 guy. Maybe even day 2. Maybe he slides in there. I don't really know. We'll have to see what happens. But you definitely need 2 cornerbacks in this draft, 2 gritty quarterbacks. Those 5 guys are my favorite. And whoever wants to take the floor, talk about their favorite cornerbacks, go right for it because it seems like that's everyone's top need at this moment.
Yeah, I think another guy, if we go round 3, that I would like to look at is Paulson Edebo out of Stanford. He's another big body guy, and I think talent wise, he's definitely an early 2nd round talent. But for some reason, actually not for some reason, there's just so many damn good corners in this draft that he's probably going to go in round 3. But
he was an opt-out. He was an opt-out. So sometimes those guys might slip a little bit.
For sure. Yeah, especially when you're not a 1st round talent. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I just think, to your point, there's so many guys. There's Lenore out of Oregon. There's a guy in Washington. There's a guy at Cal. Like there's literally probably 30 corners that if we could get 2 of them, I'd be happy. So corner, I agree with you. I had it in 2nd round. I had it in the 3rd round. I had it in the 4th round. And I think if we have a perfect draft, we probably do need to get 2 corners, and it's got to be very early for both of those corners, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think for me, I agree with a lot of what you guys have been saying. I want to take 2 corners in this draft, if not at least 1. And it has to be in day 2 for me because we're obviously not going to be taking one day 1. And I actually think for the 49ers, I think that 2nd round spot is going to be best player available. But if you listen to something specific they said at the press conference earlier, was that there's 160 really good players in this draft. And if you look at the picks the Niners have, they have in the later rounds 155, 172, 180, and 194. So I think they're actually going to consolidate some of those picks to move up in the 3rd round and potentially still hang on to that other 3rd round pick, so that you can get more shots at the dartboard, and you can get some of those picks early on, because I think past that 5th, 6th round, the Niners don't value a lot of guys. So for me, if I'm looking at it from that perspective, I love both of the Georgia corners that you guys mentioned, Tyson Campbell, and of course the other one. And I want my guy Asante Samuel Jr. to somehow fall to us at 43, of course. But I also love a guy like Kelvin Joseph, or the Syracuse corner that was mentioned earlier. He's amazing as well. I think he's a guy who could definitely be there for the 49ers. He could be some of their targeting. I love the Minnesota corner as well that Jesse was talking about, Benjamin St-Juste. He's really interesting to me. He's a big guy. He's not as fast, but he has a lot of great physical skill sets. And I think for the Niners, they're going to have to target 2 types of corners. They're going to have to get a really big corner, or they're going to have to get a slot corner. And for me, I'd prefer them to just address both. Because I think that's the most ideal situation. The younger you get, the better. And then you don't have to worry as much. Even if Jason Verrett does play great, let's be real, it's going to be hard to figure out the best situation, because you're either going to have to pay him long-term and risk that injury again, or let him go in free agency and let maybe your best corner go. So I think they're going to have to address that position at some point in the next 2 years, no matter what.